Honorable Mr. Richard Maru, Minister for International Trade and Investment, His Vice Minister, Honorable Kesi Sawang, Members of Parliament, Chief Secretary, Mr. Ivan Pamaliu, Acting Secretary for Department of International Trade and Investment, Mrs. Jacinta Warakai, distinguished guests, participants who came from provinces all around Papua New Guinea to this summit, and ladies and gentlemen. As already mentioned, I am the first Legislative Counsel of Papua New Guinea. The role of my office is to draft the laws of Papua New Guinea. Before I go on to my presentation on the amendment to the Special Economic Zone Act 2019, which is the current law, I would like to give a brief background on the role that I play, especially in the process of translating this policy that you have just heard into law. And in the legislative process, in the making of laws, the act, the legislation emanates from the policy. A drafter or a council, that a drafter of laws cannot just make draft laws from the blues. I have to depend on the policy to translate it into law. That's why the policy basis must be good at the outset before good law is enacted. So let me first start with the role of the Office of the Legislative Counsel. The Legislative Drafting Service Act, Chapter 80, establishes the Office of the Legislative Counsel and is headed by the First Legislative Counsel, who is a deemed departmental head as per the Act. The FLC reports directly to the Prime Minister regarding the performance of her functions and duties. The role of the OLC is to draft the laws, government laws, and the law, the Legislative Drafting Service Act prescribes the role of the OLC, and that is to draft the laws of Papua New Guinea upon instruction and directions from the National Executive Council. And the bills includes regulations and other subordinate laws. And I will state briefly the legislative process for purposes of interest. Firstly, there must be a development of policy. And I believe this summit is the development. We are here in this consultation stage, and we are developing this policy. So I believe this is the consultation stage, and many more consultation. I believe this summit is the consultation stage, and maybe many more consultations will happen after this summit. Secondly, the department must obtain a certificate of necessity from the state solicitor. The state solicitor must give a certificate called the certificate of necessity, stating that it is necessary to draft this particular law. And then the policy submission will go to the NEC for approval. NEC will approve the policy submission, which will include the policy. And after that, the NEC will direct the FLC to draft the law. The drafting of the law progresses, and after which the First Legislative Council will issue a certificate of compliance, stating that I have complied with the NEC decision and the drafting instructions. After that, the bill goes to Parliament to go through the process in Parliament, the readings and the passage of the law. And after that, the commencement and certification of the law. So that's basically the legislative process. Now going on to the amendment to the Special Economic Zone, I will give a brief background of the Special Economic Zone laws in Papua New Guinea. In 1990, the Industrial Centers Development Corporation Act 1990 was enacted, and that act was to establish Industrial Centers Development Corporation for related purposes. That act, as we all know, established the industrial park in Lake called the Malahang and the Ulaleu Industrial Park in East New Britain. However, they did not progress on. And the other act that was also enacted was the Free Trade Zone Act 2000, which also established the Vanimo Free Trade Zone, but that also did not progress on. And that act was to establish the framework and mechanism for the creation, operation, administration, and coordination of free trade zones in Papua New Guinea, and to make provision for the creation and establishment of authorities in respect of such free trade zones, and for the conferral upon such authorities of statutory powers and functions relating to the management and operations of free trade zones. Both of those two legislations were repealed in 2019 when the 2019 Act came into effect. So both of those two legislations are no longer in operation. Currently, we have the Special Economic Zone Act 2019, which was enacted in 2019. And as you can see on the slide, there are three main functions of this law: is to enable the establishment, development, operation, and regulation of special economic zones in Papua New Guinea, and to encourage the development of new and additional business activity in special economic zones under a streamlined regulatory framework. Thirdly, is to create a special economic zones authority, which is also already established, to develop and regulate special economic zones, including the selection of sites, development and operation, and for related purposes. Now, when this act was enacted in 2019, there was no policy basis. There was instruction given to our office, and we just enacted it. It was kind of just given instruction, and we had to adhere to that instruction. However, there was no policy basis. But and I think that is not the legislative process as it should be. But for now, I think we will have we will improve on the current law going forward. So as you can see on the slide, what I highlighted in white is the current law, and what I highlighted in yellow are the proposed changes that will happen to this to our amendments to this current act. So I will only speak on the sections highlighted in yellow. So number 3, on the appointment of the CEO, is powers and functions and employees of the authority. The new change now will be that the appointment of a CEO will not be limited only to PNG National, but also it will be open to outside candidates or appointees for the reason that this is a new area that we are going into. We've been, starting this particular regime, but we need an experienced person who has the experience, the skills to come and in the initial stages start off the Special Economic Zone Authority under the new act. Number 4, on the establishment of a subsidiary, a company of the authority, that is also not in the current law, but it will now be in the new law, as you have heard from the policy. This will be the business arm of the Special Economic Zone Authority. It will generate income for the authority, as been expressed that the government budget and allocation will not be enough to sustain the authority. So it needs a business arm to generate income to operate the SEZ. And of course, it will implement and it will be the business arm of SEZ to implement commercial interest of SEZ and to participate in SEZ investments and to generate income. In the next slide, the OneStop Shop. The OneStop Shop is in the current law, but it is not clear. So it will now be strengthened and defined properly. And as you can see on the list there, those are all the competent state agencies that will incorporate their roles into one place to enable the efficient implementation of this regime. And as you can see, if you are in this room, you can see for yourself there the Department of Lands and Physical Planning, Conservation, Environment Protection Authority, Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Papua New Guinea Immigration and Citizenship Authority, National Procurement Commission, National Agriculture Quarantine and Inspection Authority, PNG Customs Services, Internal Revenue Commission, Bank of Papua New Guinea. I purposely mention those names because in the consultation stage, it is important that you involve and you are responsive to the consultations because your role will be affected by this law. So you have to contribute meaningfully because there will be also a OneStop Shop Act that will also be enacted after the enactment of these amendments. The next one is on the application for special economic zone licenses that is also absent in the current law and it will be included according to the policy. It is important that it is necessary that this licensing regime must be included. So any applicant who proposes to develop, operate or maintain a special economic zone may apply to the authority for consideration and granting of a special economic zone license. Number 10, special economic zone list. So as you have heard in the policy, there will be a land reform, and we will hear more from the Deputy Prime Minister, who is the Minister for Lands as well. It will translate state land, customary land, or privately or freehold lands into state leases. And this is subject to further consultation as well. And the processes will be put down in the law. And I would also encourage that further consultation must be done with our customary landowners, because I believe there will be a lot of misunderstanding as well. So that has to be made properly and made clear to the customary landowners, our people back in the villages, because I know they will ask a lot of questions about this, as they have always been. When it touches on land, it touches their hearts. So I would encourage proper consultation with the customary landowners in order for us to tighten up the law on this case. Number 17. So the Special Economic Investment Fund, that is also not in the current law, but it will be some proposed change to the amendments. This is a subsidiary company which will be established, and the money from the investment fund will be used to fund infrastructures as when there is special economic zone to be established, the authority cannot wait for the government to fund those establishments or infrastructures, but to get money from this investment fund. And as I said earlier, the subsidiary company will generate income and put into this investment fund. Finally, is the special economic zone procurement. This is also not in the current law, but it will be now included. And this, the authority will work together with the National Procurement Commission to ensure that they institute and administer this procurement regime for development of infrastructure and supply of goods and services, and all the processes involved in there will be also included in the law. In my conclusion, I would say that proper and wide consultation is needed and vital in order to make good policies and make good laws. And the law must reflect the policy. The law sets the basis and foundation on which the SEZ will operate and function. That's why all the processes must be properly followed, and I would encourage proper and wider consultation in order to come up with good policy and a good law. Thank you for your attention.